The morning started like any other day on Earth. People went to work, children played in parks, and traffic moved slowly through busy cities. Nobody looked up at the sky with worry. Why would they? The year was 2157, and humanity had finally learned to travel between the stars. Life was good. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the starship Defiance, watching Earth turn slowly below them. Her ship was humanity's newest and best warship, though she knew it was nothing special compared to what other species might have. The Defiance had just returned from a 3-month patrol of the outer system. Everything had been quiet. Sarah was 52 years old, with short black hair and tired eyes. She had fought in 3 wars on Mars, when the colonies tried to break free from Earth. Each time, her enemies had more ships and better weapons. Each time, she had found a way to win anyway. The press called her the Iron Admiral, but her crew just called her Admiral Chen. She was drinking her morning coffee when the sensors started screaming. "Admiral," Lieutenant Rodriguez called from his station. "Something big just appeared near the moon. I mean really big." Sarah put down her coffee and looked at the main screen. Her blood turned cold. A ship hung in space above Earth. It was not like anything humans had ever built. The alien vessel was black as night and longer than the biggest city on Earth. Strange lights moved along its hull in patterns that hurt to look at. The ship was so large it blocked out stars. "How big is it?" Sarah asked. "About 50 kilometers long," Rodriguez said, his voice shaking. "Mass readings are off the charts. Admiral, this thing could destroy every ship we have without trying." The bridge went quiet. Every person stared at the screen. Sarah had seen many enemy ships before, but this was different. This was beyond anything human technology could fight. "Are they sending any messages?" she asked. "Yes, Admiral. Coming in now." The alien voice that came through the speakers was cold and flat. It spoke perfect English, though something about the tone was wrong. It sounded like a machine pretending to be alive. "Attention, primitive species of the third planet. This is War Master Zektar of the Hegemony Fleet. Your world has been selected for integration into our empire. You will surrender all military forces immediately. You have 72 hours to comply. Resistance will result in the cleansing of your species. This message will not be repeated." The communication ended. The bridge stayed silent for a long moment. "Admiral," Rodriguez whispered. "What do we do?" Sarah looked around at her crew. They were scared. She was scared too. But fear was something she knew how to use. "How many ships do we have in the system?" she asked. 12, her tactical officer replied. 6 cruisers like us, 4 destroyers, and 2 carriers. Maybe 30 fighters total." Sarah almost laughed. 30 fighters against something that big. It was like bringing a knife to a gunfight with a tank. Her communication officer spoke up. "Admiral, we're getting calls from Earth Command. They want all ships to report to Luna Base for instructions on surrender." "Surrender?" Sarah's voice was sharp. "They want to surrender? The governments are meeting now. They're saying we can't fight something like that. They're talking about negotiating terms." Sarah walked to the front of the bridge and stared at the alien ship. She had spent her whole life fighting impossible battles. The rebels on Mars had always had more ships, more people, more weapons. Everyone had told her to surrender then too. But surrender was not a word Sarah Chen understood. "Open a channel to Earth Command," she said. "Admiral, they're ordering all ships to stand down and—" I said, "Open a channel." The scared face of Admiral Brooks appeared on the screen. He was the head of Earth's military and Sarah's boss. He looked like he had not slept in hours. "Sarah, thank God. We need all ships to return to base immediately. We're going to surrender. We have to. Look at that thing. We can't fight it." "No," Sarah said simply. Brooks blinked. "What do you mean?" "No? I mean no, Admiral. We're not surrendering." "Sarah, be reasonable. They have one ship that could destroy our entire fleet. What can we possibly do?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. Around her, the crew listened to every word. Finally, she spoke. "They said we have 72 hours to surrender, or they'll attack us." But they didn't attack right away. Why? If they're so powerful, why give us time to think about it? Brooks shook his head. What does it matter? We can't win. Maybe we can't win, Sarah said. But maybe we don't have to. Maybe we just have to show them something they don't expect. What are you talking about? Sarah turned to her communication officer. Can you patch me into the global broadcast system? Sarah, what are you doing? Brooks demanded. Something stupid, probably. Sarah looked back at him. Admiral, with respect, you can surrender if you want, but I took an oath to defend Earth. I'm going to keep that oath. She turned away from Brooks and nodded to her comm officer. Suddenly, every television, radio, and computer on Earth was receiving her signal. The alien ship was listening too. Sarah looked directly into the camera. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Speaking to the alien ship currently threatening our world. She paused and took a deep breath. Earth to unknown vessel. You have 72 hours to leave our system. You say you've done this before to other worlds. Maybe they were smart enough to surrender. Maybe they knew when they were beaten. But you're not dealing with them now. You're dealing with humans. And humans have a saying you should understand. Sarah's voice got harder, colder. We dare you to try. She cut the communication. The bridge was completely silent. Rodriguez was the first to speak. Admiral, what do we do now? Sarah smiled for the first time that day. It was not a nice smile. Now? Now we show them what happens when someone threatens Earth. Warmaster Zektar stood in the command center of his great ship, staring at the small blue planet below. His 4 arms moved across control panels, while his large black eyes studied the readings. For the first time in his 300-year military career, he was confused. Zektar belonged to a species called the Keth Mori. They were tall, thin beings, with gray skin, and minds that worked like computers. The Keth Mori had conquered 847 worlds for the hegemony. Every single time, the process was the same. First, they would appear in the target system with overwhelming force. Then, they would give the local species time to understand how hopeless their situation was. Finally, the surrender would come. Sometimes it took hours, sometimes days, but it always came. Fear was the same in every species. But these humans were different. Subcommander Yith El. Zektar called to his second-in-command. Yes, Warmaster? Play back the human female's message again. The recording of Admiral Chen's broadcast filled the command center. Zektar listened to it for the 20th time, trying to understand. She dared us to try, Yith El said, his voice puzzled. What does this mean? I do not know. Zektar's long fingers tapped against his control station. In our studies of this species, we found no indication they would respond this way. Perhaps she is insane? No. Zektar brought up the human's military record on his screen. Sarah Chen, commander of human forces during 3 separate conflicts on their colony world Mars. In each war, her forces were outnumbered by significant margins. In each war, she achieved victory through tactics we do not understand. Yith El moved closer to study the records. How is this possible? The humans have primitive technology. Their weapons are crude. How did she win these battles? That is what troubles me, Zektar said. Look at this battle report from the Second Martian War. Chen's force consisted of 12 ships. The enemy had 47 ships and superior firepower. The outcome? Total victory for Chen. She lost only 3 ships. Yith El was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, Warmaster, what if the humans do not follow standard behavioral patterns? Zektar turned all 4 of his eyes toward his subcommander. Explain. Every species we have encountered operates on logical principles. When faced with certain death, they choose survival through surrender. When faced with overwhelming force, they negotiate for better terms. When presented with an impossible situation, they find a reasonable solution. Yes, this is how intelligent beings behave. But what if humans are not logical in this way? What if they choose to fight, even when they cannot win? The idea was so strange that Zektar had trouble processing it. That would be insane. No species would choose extinction over surrender. Unless, Ythel said slowly, they believe something is more important than survival. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Chen was having her own problems. She had managed to contact every military commander on the planet, but not all of them wanted to fight. Admiral Chen, you're asking us to commit suicide, General Morrison said during the emergency video conference. Morrison commanded the European Defense Forces. We can't fight that thing. We can try, Chen replied. Try to do what? Die heroically? What good will that do? Chen looked around at the faces on her screen. Half the military leaders agreed with Morrison. The other half looked scared, but determined. General, let me ask you something, Chen said. Do you have children? Morrison looked uncomfortable. Yes. 2 daughters. What do you want them to remember about today? That their father fought to protect them? Or that he gave up without trying? That's not fair, Admiral. If we fight, they might die anyway. If we surrender, they'll become slaves. The aliens didn't offer to make us partners. They said they would integrate us into their empire. What do you think that means? The conference room was quiet. Finally, Admiral Kumar from the Asian Coalition spoke up. What do you propose we do, Admiral Chen? Chen activated her tactical display. I've been studying their communication signals. Every message they send follows the same pattern. They're using standard procedures, like they've done this exact same thing many times before. So they're following a script. They expect us to behave in a certain way. When we don't, they don't know what to do. General Martinez from South America leaned forward. What makes you think that? Chen smiled. Because they gave us 72 hours. Why? If they can destroy us easily, why not just do it? Why give us time to prepare? Maybe they're being merciful, Morrison suggested. No, Chen said firmly. They're following their standard procedure because that's all they know how to do. She pressed a button and began transmitting data to all the commanders. I'm sending you everything we know about human military history. I want you to broadcast it on all frequencies. I want that alien ship to receive every battle report, every war documentary, every story about humans fighting impossible odds. Why? Kumar asked. Because I want them to understand exactly what they're dealing with. I want them to know that humans don't surrender just because the enemy is bigger. I want them to see Thermopylae, where 300 Spartans held off an entire Persian army. I want them to see Stalingrad, where humans fought for every street and every building. I want them to see every last stand, every hopeless battle, every time humans chose to fight instead of surrender. Morrison shook his head. Admiral, that's just going to prove their point. We'll be showing them how often humans die in hopeless battles. No, General. We'll be showing them how often humans win hopeless battles. Chen stood up and looked directly into the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 68 hours left. I suggest we use them to remind ourselves who we are. We're the species that looked at this entire hostile universe and decided to explore it anyway. We're the species that saw impossible challenges and called them opportunities. We're humans. She paused and her voice got harder. And humans don't back down. High above Earth, War Master Zektar was receiving the human transmissions. Battle after battle, war after war, showing the same pattern. Humans fighting when they should surrender. Humans winning when they should lose. Humans choosing death over defeat, again and again. War Master, Ythel said quietly, I am beginning to understand why this species concerns me. How so? In all our studies of galactic species, we have found 2 types of beings. Those who fight when they can win, and those who surrender when they cannot. These humans appear to be a 3rd type, which is those who fight regardless of whether they can win or not. Zektar stared at the blue planet below. For the first time in his long career, he was not certain of victory. Sub-Commander, what do our battle computers project for a direct assault on this world? Victory within 6 hours, War Master. Estimated casualties, minimal. And yet, War Master, our computers have never calculated battles against opponents who refuse to surrender. The attack came at dawn on the 3rd day. Warmaster Zektar had spent the last 72 hours studying human military history. What he saw disturbed him more than he cared to admit, but orders were orders, and the hegemony had never failed to bring a species into their empire. "Begin standard pacification protocol," Zektar commanded from his bridge. Across Earth, people looked up at the sky as alien ships descended from the massive mothership. There were 50 of them, each one larger than any human vessel. They moved in perfect formation toward major cities around the world. Admiral Chen watched from the bridge of the Defiance as alien ships approached Earth. Her own fleet was pitifully small compared to the enemy. But every human ship was ready to fight. "All ships. This is Admiral Chen," she broadcast to her fleet. "Remember, they expect us to behave like every other species they've conquered. They expect us to see their superior numbers and surrender. Let's disappoint them." The first alien ship reached New York City and began broadcasting a surrender demand. Instead of surrender, every military installation in the area opened fire. Missiles streaked upward from hidden launchers. Fighter jets rose from secret underground bases. Even the police and civilian militias joined the battle with whatever weapons they could find. On his bridge, Zektar watched the tactical display with growing confusion. "Sub-Commander, why are they still fighting? Our ships are destroying their positions." "I do not understand either, Warmaster. Look at this sector." Ythel pointed to the display. "We destroyed their main military base, but smaller groups continue attacking from hidden positions. When we destroy those, even smaller groups appear. How many military units do these humans have?" "That is the problem, Warmaster. Every human appears to be a military unit." Zektar studied the reports coming in from his ship commanders. In London, alien forces had taken the city center, but humans continued fighting from sewers and subway tunnels. In Tokyo, human civilians were attacking alien troops with kitchen knives and farming tools. In Cairo, an 80-year-old human female had somehow destroyed an alien scout vehicle with homemade explosives. "This makes no logical sense," Zektar said. "Why do they continue fighting when they cannot win?" His answer came from an unexpected source. One of his ship commanders, attacking Moscow, managed to capture a human soldier. The alien brought the prisoner to the mothership for questioning. The human was a young female, badly wounded but still defiant. Zektar studied her through the force field of her cell. "You are defeated," he told her through the translation device. "Your forces are destroyed. Your weapons are useless against us. Why do you not surrender?" The human woman looked up at him with eyes full of anger. "Because you threatened our home. We offered you integration into our empire. You would have been protected. We don't want your protection. We want you gone." Zektar tilted his head. "You will die if you continue fighting. Then we'll die fighting. This is not logical. Death serves no purpose." The human smiled, and Zektar was surprised at how frightening the expression looked. "You really don't understand, do you? You've conquered 800 worlds, but you've never faced anyone like us. We're not fighting because we think we can win. We're fighting because it's who we are." While Zektar struggled to understand human psychology, Admiral Chen was putting her desperate plan into action. She had studied the alien attack patterns for 3 days and noticed something important. The aliens fought like police, not soldiers. Their ships would approach a target, demand surrender, and then use minimum force to secure the area. When resistance appeared, they would increase force gradually until the resistance stopped. But they always expected the resistance to stop. "Rodriguez," Chen called to her tactical officer. "How many nuclear missiles do we have in storage?" "About 200, Admiral. But they're old ICBMs from the 20th century. They weren't designed for space combat." Two. They don't need to be designed for space combat. They just need to explode." Chen activated the ship's communication system. "Attention all human forces. This is Admiral Chen with new orders. Stop fighting defensively. We're going on the attack." Around the world, human commanders received their orders with disbelief. Chen wanted every ship, every fighter, every available weapon to concentrate on a single target. "The alien mothership, Admiral." General Morrison's voice came through the comm. "That's suicide. We can't get close to that thing. We're not trying to destroy it, Chen replied. We're trying to get inside it. What? I've been watching their tactics. They're not used to enemies who attack when they're losing. They're not used to kamikaze runs or suicide attacks. When they see us coming straight at them, they're going to try to capture us instead of destroying us. Why would they do that? Because that's what they always do. They want to preserve enemy forces so they can integrate them into their empire. They don't understand total war. Chen looked around her bridge at her crew. These people had served with her through 3 wars. They trusted her, even when her orders seemed insane. All right, people. We're going to do something that's never been done before. We're going to ram the Defiance straight into that alien ship. We're going to load every nuclear weapon we have and turn ourselves into the biggest guided missile in human history. The bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Rodriguez spoke up. Admiral, that will kill us all. Probably, Chen agreed. But it will also put human soldiers on that alien ship. And once we're inside their ship, we'll show them what humans do when someone threatens our home. Lieutenant Kim at the navigation station raised her hand. Admiral, what if they just destroy us before we can ram them? Chen smiled. Then we'll make them work for it. Every ship that attacks us is a ship that's not attacking Earth. Every minute we keep them busy is a minute our people have to prepare better defenses. The Defiance began moving toward the alien mothership, followed by every human vessel that could fly. Fighter jets launched from Earth to escort them. Civilian ships joined the attack, loaded with whatever explosives their crews could find. On the alien mothership, Zektar watched the approaching human fleet with alarm. What are they doing? This is not a military formation. This is a suicide attack, Yithel finished. But why? They must know they cannot destroy us. Yithel studied the human ships more carefully. War Master, I do not think they are trying to destroy us. Look at their approach vectors. They are all aimed at our docking bays. They want to board us? Zektar was horrified. That is impossible. They would all die. Yes, Yithel said quietly. They would all die. And they are doing it anyway. For the first time in his military career, Zektar felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Not fear of death, but fear of an enemy that did not fear death. All ships, he commanded, capture protocols only. Do not destroy the human vessels. Disable and board them. War Master? His communications officer called. The human admiral is broadcasting a message. Admiral Chen's voice filled the alien bridge. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth Defense Force. You wanted to see what humans do when you threaten our world. Pay attention. The Defiance, loaded with enough nuclear weapons to destroy a city, accelerated toward the alien mothership. Behind it came every human ship that could fly, each one ready to fight to the death. Zektar realized too late that the humans had set a perfect trap. If he destroyed the attacking ships, he would prove that humans were right to fight instead of surrender. If he captured them, he would have to deal with human soldiers inside his own ship. Either way, he was about to learn what happened when someone underestimated humanity. The Defiance crashed into the alien mothership like a bullet through paper. Admiral Chen had been right about alien tactics. Instead of destroying the human ships, the aliens used capture beams to drag them into their docking bays. They wanted to preserve the attacking forces for integration into their empire. It was the same mistake they had made 847 times before, but no previous enemy had been crazy enough to exploit it. Chen felt her ship being pulled into the massive alien vessel. Around her, the bridge crew prepared for boarding action. Every human carried weapons, explosives, and a determination to make the aliens regret bringing them inside. Remember, Chen told her people over the comm system, we're not trying to destroy this ship. We're trying to learn how it works. Take prisoners if you can. Find their computers. Get information. The Defiance settled into an alien docking bay with a grinding crash. Chen looked around at her crew one last time. Well, people, we're inside. Let's go introduce ourselves to our hosts. The airlock door exploded outward as human soldiers poured into the alien ship. The aliens had expected resistance, but they had not expected this level of violence. Human soldiers fought like wild animals, using their own bodies as weapons when they ran out of ammunition. Sergeant Martinez threw himself at an alien guard and tackled the creature to the ground. The alien was larger and stronger, but Martinez had something the alien had never encountered. Pure rage. "You want to conquer Earth?" Martinez shouted as he wrestled with the creature. "Try conquering me first." Throughout the ship, similar scenes played out as human soldiers spread through the corridors. The aliens fought back, but their weapons were designed to disable, not kill. They had never needed to kill an entire boarding party before. Chen herself led a team toward what her scanner identified as the ship's command center. She had been wounded in the crash landing, but adrenaline kept her moving. Behind her, Lieutenant Kim and 3 Marines followed, their weapons ready. "Admiral," Kim whispered, "the ship's layout doesn't make sense. Look at these corridors." Chen looked around. Kim was right. The passages were too wide, the ceilings too high. Everything was built for comfort, not military efficiency. "It's like they designed this ship for passengers, not soldiers," Kim continued. They reached a massive door marked with alien symbols. Chen's translator device identified it as a data storage center. "This is it," she said. "The ship's computer core." The door was unlocked. That should have been Chen's first warning. Inside the data center, walls covered with strange screens and floating displays showed information about hundreds of worlds. Chen approached the nearest terminal and activated her universal interface device. "Kim, start copying everything you can. I want to know what we're dealing with." As the data flowed into her device, Chen began to understand something that changed everything. These were not military conquest files. They were protection contracts. "Admiral," Kim called from another terminal, "you need to see this." The screen showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of marked systems. Each world had a status indicator: protected, monitoring, or threat level. "What am I looking at, Kim?" "Trade agreements, Admiral. Defense contracts. The hegemony isn't conquering these worlds. They're protecting them." Chen felt cold. Protecting them from what? Kim activated another screen. The answer made Chen's blood freeze. Ancient ships moved through space in the display. Ships that looked like they were made of dark metal and shadow. The vessels had no windows, no visible crew areas. Nothing that suggested living beings controlled them. "The silence," Chen read from the alien text. "Automated extermination fleet. Mission: remove aggressive species before they threaten galactic stability." More data flowed across the screens. The silence was a network of artificial intelligence systems left behind by some ancient civilization. For millions of years, they had patrolled the galaxy, destroying any species that showed signs of rapid technological growth or aggressive expansion. "My God," Kim whispered. "Admiral, look at this threat assessment." A file appeared with Earth's image and analysis. The translation made Chen's heart sink. Species: human. Threat level: maximum. Technological growth rate: extreme. Expansion tendency: aggressive. Recommended action: immediate extermination. The hegemony came to save us, Chen realized. They were trying to get us to surrender, so the silence wouldn't notice us. "But Admiral, if that's true, then why didn't they just tell us?" Chen studied more files. "Because it doesn't work that way. Look at these records. The silence only ignores species that have been completely pacified. No military, no expansion, no technological development. They wanted to turn us into sheep." The sound of fighting echoed through the corridors as human and alien forces battled throughout the ship. Chen realized that every minute of fighting was making things worse. "Kim, can you access their long-range sensors?" "Working on it, Admiral. Here we go." Kim's face went pale. "Admiral, we have a problem." The sensor display showed space around Earth. 96 hours ago, there had been nothing unusual. 72 hours ago, the hegemony ship had arrived. Now, something else was coming. Dark shapes moved through the outer system, heading toward Earth. ships that looked like they were made of nightmares. The silence. Chen breathed. Our fight with the hegemony has been too loud. We've attracted their attention. Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. Chen and her team raised their weapons, expecting alien soldiers. Instead, War Master Zektar appeared in the doorway, his forearms raised in what might have been surrender. Admiral Chen, he said through his translator, we must speak. Why aren't you fighting us? Because fighting you has doomed us all. Zektar gestured toward the sensor display. The silence is coming. Your species has exactly what they were designed to eliminate. Rapid technological advancement and absolute refusal to submit to authority. Chen kept her weapon pointed at the alien commander. So, you decided to make us submit to you instead. We tried to save you. Every species we have brought into the hegemony was facing the same fate. Surrender to us, or be destroyed by the silence. And what happens to the species that join you? Zektar's expression was difficult to read on his alien features, but Chen thought he looked sad. They survive, but they never advance again, never explore, never grow. They become safe. Chen looked around the data center at the files of hundreds of worlds. Billions of beings living under hegemony protection. All of them slowly dying from boredom and restriction. How long until the silence arrives? 18 hours, Zektar replied. Chen studied the alien commander. He had tried to conquer Earth, but she was beginning to understand why. He had seen what the silence did to aggressive species, and he had tried to save humanity the only way he knew how. War Master, let me ask you something. In 800 years of hegemony expansion, has anyone ever hurt the silence? No, they are machines. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped. When they decide a species must die, that species dies. Chen smiled, and once again Zektar found the human expression frightening. War Master, you've been studying human history for 3 days. Did you notice something interesting about us? I noticed many disturbing things about your species. We specialize in fighting enemies that cannot be stopped. Chen activated her communication system and broadcast to all human forces, both on the ship and back on Earth. Attention all human forces. This is Admiral Chen. We have 18 hours until a new enemy arrives. An enemy that has spent millions of years destroying species like us. An enemy that thinks we're too dangerous to be allowed to live. She paused and looked directly at Zektar. Let's prove them right. The silence arrived like death itself. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the alien mothership, watching dark shapes emerge from space near the edge of the solar system. The ships were wrong in every possible way. They had no lights, no markings, no signs of life. They simply existed, like holes cut out of reality. How many? She asked War Master Zektar. 12 extermination vessels, the alien commander replied. His 4 hands moved nervously over his control panels. Admiral, you must understand. The silence does not negotiate. They do not take prisoners. They will sterilize every planet in this system. Chen nodded. In the 18 hours since they had learned the truth, she had formed an unlikely alliance with the hegemony forces. Human and alien crews now worked together, preparing for a battle that no one expected to survive. What's our combined strength? 1 hegemony dreadnought, 12 human ships, and approximately 300 fighters, Zektar said. Against an enemy that has never been defeated. Chen looked at the tactical display. The numbers were impossible. Each silent ship was larger than the hegemony dreadnought. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their shields had never been breached in millions of years of operation. Rodriguez, she called to her communications officer, open a channel to all ships. Every human and alien vessel received her transmission. This is Admiral Chen. I know what you're all thinking. We can't win this fight. The enemy is too strong, too advanced, too powerful. She paused and looked around the bridge. Human and alien officers worked side by side, preparing for what everyone believed would be their last battle. You're absolutely right. We can't win this fight. But we're going to fight it anyway. You know why? Because 18 hours ago, these machines decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist. They looked at our species and declared that we needed to be exterminated. Her voice grew harder. Well, I've got news for them. If they want to exterminate us, they're going to have to work for it. The silence ships moved through the outer system with perfect coordination. They ignored the asteroid belt, bypassed the outer planets, and headed straight for Earth. Nothing had ever challenged them before. Nothing had ever even tried. "Admiral," Lieutenant Kim called from her station. "They're broadcasting something." The message that came through the speakers was unlike anything the aliens had ever heard. It was not a voice, but something that felt like ice in their minds. Species designation, human. Threat assessment, confirmed. Beginning extermination protocol. Resistance is irrelevant. Chen activated her own broadcast system. She aimed her transmission directly at the approaching ships. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen, of the human species. Your threat assessment is correct. We are dangerous. We are aggressive. We refuse to submit to authority. But you missed something important in your analysis." She smiled, and even the hegemony crew found the expression terrifying. "We're also really good at killing things that try to kill us." The first silent ship reached the orbit of Mars and began charging its main weapon. The energy buildup was visible from Earth as a growing point of darkness that seemed to absorb light itself. "All ships, attack formation," Chen commanded. The combined human-alien fleet moved toward the enemy. It was like watching ants attack a tank. But Chen had learned something important about the silence from the hegemony data files. The machines were designed to fight logical opponents who retreated when facing impossible odds. Humans were not logical. The first wave of human fighters reached the silence ship and opened fire with everything they had. Their weapons barely scratched the alien hull, but they kept attacking anyway. When their missiles ran out, they flew directly into the enemy ship, turning their fighters into guided bombs. On the hegemony bridge, Zektar watched in amazement as human pilot after human pilot crashed their ships into the silence vessels. "Why do they not retreat?" he asked Chen. "Because retreating never occurred to them," Chen replied. The silence ships had protocols for every type of enemy attack, but they had never faced opponents who treated their own lives as expendable weapons. The machines began adapting their tactics, but adaptation took time, and humans did not give them time to think. "War Master," Chen said, "I need you to do something that goes against every military principle you know." "What?" "I need you to ram your ship into theirs." Zektar stared at her. "Admiral, that would destroy my vessel and kill my entire crew." "Yes, it would. But it would also put us inside their ship. And once we're inside, we can show them what happens when they threaten our home." For a long moment, Zektar said nothing. Then he turned to his crew. "Set collision course with the lead silence vessel." "War Master?" his sub-commander asked. "You heard the human. If we are to die today, let us die fighting alongside the most dangerous species in the galaxy." The hegemony dreadnought accelerated toward the largest silence ship. Around them, human vessels provided covering fire, sacrificing themselves to clear a path. The silence machines fired back with weapons that could crack planets, but humans kept coming. Chen felt the ship shudder as alien weapons tore through the hull. Around her, human and alien crew members worked together, keeping the ship moving even as it fell apart around them. "Impact in 30 seconds, Kim reported. Chen activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, prepare for boarding action. Remember, we're not trying to destroy their ship. We're trying to prove that humans can't be exterminated." The dreadnought smashed into the silence vessel with the force of a nuclear explosion. Both ships were badly damaged, but the silence ship's hull was breached. For the first time in millions of years, something had gotten inside a silence vessel. Human soldiers poured through the breach, led by Chen herself. The inside of the alien ship was like nothing they had ever seen. Corridors filled with black metal and strange lights that hurt to look at. Everything was designed for machines, not living beings. "Spread out," Chen commanded. "Find their control center." The silence defenders were unlike anything the humans had fought before. They were not individual machines, but parts of a vast artificial intelligence. They moved with perfect coordination, sharing information instantly. but they had never fought opponents who shared something even stronger than information. They had never fought opponents who shared pure stubbornness. Human soldiers advanced through the ship, taking massive casualties but never stopping. When their weapons ran out, they used their hands. When they were too wounded to fight, they used themselves as shields for their comrades. Chen reached what appeared to be the ship's central processing unit. Banks of computers lined the walls, processing information at impossible speeds. This was the mind of the ship that had come to destroy humanity. She connected her universal interface device to the alien systems and began uploading something that no silent ship had ever encountered. Human military history. Every last stand. Every impossible victory. Every time humans had faced extinction and chosen to fight instead of surrender. The Silence artificial intelligence processed the information and for the first time in its existence, experienced something like confusion. The data did not match any of its behavioral models. Humans should surrender when facing certain death. Instead, they fought harder. Admiral Kim called over the comm system. I'm reading massive power fluctuations throughout their fleet. I think we're actually hurting them. Chen understood. The silent ships were designed to fight predictable enemies. When faced with opponents who acted completely outside their programming, the machines did not know how to respond. All human forces, she broadcast. Concentrate everything on the lead ship. Show them what we do to bullies. Quote, around the solar system, every remaining human vessel converged on the damaged Silence ship. They came from all directions, ignoring the other enemy vessels, focusing all their firepower on a single target. The Silence ship's artificial intelligence tried to adapt, but humans kept doing things that made no logical sense. Fighter pilots rammed their ships into critical systems. Damaged vessels used their last moments to ram enemy weak points. Even civilian ships joined the attack, their crews willing to die if it meant protecting Earth. The lead Silence ship began to break apart under the concentrated assault. For the first time in galactic history, a Silence vessel was being destroyed in combat. But more importantly, the entire Silence fleet was learning something new. They were learning that some species could not be exterminated through fear and overwhelming force alone. Admiral, Zektar called through the smoke and flames of the damaged bridge. Their fleet is withdrawing. Chen looked at the tactical display in disbelief. The remaining Silence ships were actually retreating, pulling back toward the edge of the system. They're leaving? Their programming does not allow for extended engagement with unpredictable opponents, Zektar explained. They will return with different tactics, but not for some time. Chen slumped against a bulkhead, exhausted and wounded but alive. Around her, human and alien crew members worked together to tend the wounded and repair critical systems. War Master, she said, I want to propose a new kind of alliance. What did you have in mind? Chen looked out at the stars, where the Silent ships were disappearing into the distance. You said your people have been looking for a way to fight the Silence for millions of years. Well, now you've found one. Humans. Not just humans. Anyone willing to learn how to fight the impossible. Your people have technology and knowledge. We have something else. We have something else. What? Chen smiled. We have the absolute refusal to know when we're beaten. 3 months later, the first joint human hegemony fleet launched from Earth orbit. The ships carried crews from dozens of species. All of them trained in human military tactics. All of them taught the most important lesson humanity had to offer. Sometimes, when someone threatens everything you hold dear, the only rational response is to dare them to try. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the new flagship, looking out at a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ships designed for war, not intimidation. Crews trained to fight, not to surrender. For the first time in galactic history, someone was going hunting for the Silence, and humanity was leading the way.